Juan, you made it back this time. Hello. A lot has
Hello.
happened in the past month, and I'm going to try to keep it simple. We have a lot to cover. I just did sent on the chat the uh, Boiling Code Roundtable site that has a massive resource of information of everything that's happened within the last 5.5 months. Bills, everything is
I
all
have
right
to
there for you.
close my little window.
Um,
So
I want to start out with new stuff that happened 2 weeks ago. This is about the eviction thing. The eviction process is almost changing every day, right, Beth? But let's start out with the basic one. 2 weeks ago, the Chief Judge Marks issued a order that wiped out all previous orders just from the court that really set the framework of what's happening now. And of course, that's going to change again. So, in case you didn't hear, any cases that were filed prior to March 17, regardless of where they were in that advancement of that case, a warrant issued, an affidavit being filed, this staying paid plan did not work out, and you're asking for a warrant, anything filed before that date has to get rescheduled to go in front of a judge again. You'll be getting a letter in the mail of when your case will happen sometime in September. They are right now, our court, they're going to go through 350 to 500 cases, the backlog from pre-March 17, to get them out of the way first before we hear anything, any new ones. So any new cases, there's a good chance we're not going to get in court minimally somewhere in October. Those are cases before March 17th. And by the way, Beth, if I'm incorrect on something, because you're up to speed, I've been listening to a couple of roundtables, jump out and correct me, will you?
Nope, you're good so far.
Any cases after March 17th, all cases, non-payment, holdover, 713s are suspended to further notice. They can be filed already. You can still file. I'll get to that in a second, but they're not going to be scheduled until further notice. Now, again, I think that's going to change by the week. That's residential. All commercial evictions may proceed without a conference. Those cases before March 17th, commercial, without a conference. Further ordered, and this is where the confusion comes in, there shall be no evictions prior to October 1st. Now, there's our problem. Eviction. What defines an eviction? An eviction in a legal term is when you physically remove from the property. This is after the 14 days is over on the service of a warrant, right? But I believe that the attorneys and the court people are taking that word as the issuance of a warrant. Beth, what's your take on that?
I would agree with that. From what I understood, it was nobody can be removed from an apartment or a house prior to that date.
Right, which would mean that a warrant can be delivered 14 days prior to October 1, but that's not how they're reading that.
Right.
The courts are kind of making that simple, taking the word eviction as being the warrant. See how that could be confusing? They should say no warrant shall be delivered prior to October 1st. That's what it should be happening. That's the framework right now. Any questions with that? You may have heard that the city has passed a few bills or resolutions, I think they call them, whereby they're providing financial assistance on past rent. It's a program up and running that's being pushed through the media and advertising and so on. I think most of us here know about that, correct? Anybody doesn't know about that? Along with that resolution is the push to have all litigants, all tenants responding to court will be represented by legal counsel. And so we're going to enter a whole new norm, if you will, of pro se do-it-yourself evictions are going to start falling off to the wayside, myself included. I've been doing my own evictions for the last 37 years. But with the complexities going on and with the advantage of having an attorney with you, it makes sense maybe to have that attorney do the eviction. You're still involved because you might be doing the 14-day notices and stuff like that and the 5-day non-receipt notices. But now it's a team effort between your attorney and the manager to get evictions done. So having said that, there is a re-entry, a reopening work group made up of a bunch of committees locally here. We have 2 attorneys that are representing managers. And Leanne, by the way, I use managers more than housing provider. Both are synonymous with each other. But I like the word manager. So the hold on one second. All right, so the 2 attorneys that are representing the owners or the managers, Jamie Kane and John Naka, along with all the legal aid attorneys out there and some of the court clerks. This is the local Rochester configuration I'm talking about. This is not New York State. So they're working on a pilot program. Rochester is going to be like a pilot program to try throughout, to eventually maybe try throughout New York State. And here's kind of like the framework of what it is. And I don't know where the status is. Maybe you'd know if it's still in committee, if they're about to roll it out. But the whole idea is to have 2 parts of an eviction. The first part is ADR, which is Alternative Dispute Resolution. They want to get the parties together, not in front of a judge, to work out that settlement. Similar to what we did in the hallway out there. You know, you work out that deal, that pay and stay program, get back into the judge. But this time they want it's outside the court environment and to work that out, to get to a resolution so that part 2 would go in front of the judge to put it on record and make it official. They're thinking that's going to be the most efficient and expedient way to get through a ton of upcoming cases, the avalanche that they see coming down the pike here. The plan is to have 4 days of the week for city court, 1 day of the week for county court. All the towns and the county towns are going to now be heard in county court. Before, they were actually heard at the town court. Has anybody done a grease eviction or a Ironquoit eviction or a town eviction? Anybody done? Joe? Anybody?
I have.
Right. So I heard that they're bringing those downtown and having 1 day in the county court for all the towns. There's going to be 4 judges starting with September. Each one gets a month. September, October, November, December. That's the pilot program period. And they're going to work on 2 parts of the day. 9:30, there is, well, actually, let me take that back. 25 cases at 9:30, 25 cases at 1:30, and there's where they're going to split two. So at 9:30 is the ADR resolution, and I think they're going to have a space for that where all parties get together, they hash everything out. If it's an agreeable situation, then 11 o'clock, the part two starts. The judge comes in and hears the settled cases. This happens in the morning, in the afternoon, 25, 25. I've heard that this is starting September 7th. I've heard dates of September 1. I've heard dates of September 3. Beth, help me out here.
We actually heard from our lawyer today, and we're on the calendar for the 8th and the 9th for obviously stuff filed pre-COVID that they never got to. So, and he said it's gonna happen, but they have to do the conference, and he still wasn't sure if it's gonna be a phone in, if it's gonna be in person. He does not have like 100% on that yet.
Correct. And so part of the order of marks does indicate that well, first of all the cities are doing their own thing out there. It's so crazy. Buffalo's doing some things different than Albany and us. It's yet to be determined what's going to happen here in person. You're right. They don't know yet. They don't have any guidance yet. Part of the order was having virtual conferencing if both sides are represented. I don't know. And I'm not sure if those are cases you had pre-March 17th, Beth. So I'm not sure if those cases don't fall under the ADR, because this is an ongoing case that's already been filed and moving forward. I think this is just going in front of the judge. As a matter of fact, part of the order, I'll go right to it. Yeah, that's just going right to the judge. There's no conferencing beforehand. And I'm not sure about making sure the other side has representation. I don't see, this is all unanswered questions right now. We really don't know. But what the judge is going to do is he's going to, hold on a second. At the conference, he's going to review the procedural history of the matter, confirm compliance with all the notice requirements, inquire to the effects of how COVID-19 might change the outcome, so on and so forth. And then, so that's what that conference is all about. It's not, I don't think it's to really rehash the settlement, but it may change the outcome based upon all the new circumstances we're dealing with right now. Colleen, watch the road over there, will you? All right, so apparently they have room 202 for the judges. I don't know. Right now, they're training all the law clerks on dealing with alternative dispute resolution, because it's the two sides and their attorneys and the law clerk. That's the meeting, that's the conference. So it's the law clerk of the judge, not the judge itself. And then boom. So that's kind of like the framework of what's going to transpire. And again, the details are going to change literally day by day. Let's compare notes. What have your attorneys been telling you? Chime in. Nobody has evictions in the last 6 months?
I've asked, but they told me that, obviously nothing can be done. And I was talking with John Naka. They're the ones usually do it for me. I was talking with Aaron, and they said nothing. And of course, Aaron gets mad at me because every time she tells me that, I tell her wrong answer, try again. So. Oh,
Joe, you're right. You're right. There's a lot of misinterpretation going on out there, and we could file. We have an order that says you can file. They're just not setting any court dates down yet. They're taking them in, they're sitting in a pile. So maybe because of that, they're saying, well, why do that? Let's just wait until we issue court dates before we accept filings. That might be a local thing that they're doing. So that's an example of how different locations are doing things differently. But I'm sure the NACA office, Joe, they're aware that they are scheduling for all the pre-March 17th cases, right? They know that. I'm sure they got a bunch.
I'm sure they do.
Jamie,
Sure.
Beth, I think you heard today, Jamie, or Tuesday, Jamie was, she got a case on September 3rd, for example. So you got, Beth, you got just two on the calendar?
I just have two that were never heard prior to COVID. I have ones that weren't heard, but those have since been resolved, so they were just kind of wiped out.
Got you.
But we have not been filing. You've been filing, Carl?
No, I'm not for the very reason what Joe said. They're really not taking any. And they're not doing them in person. The order
Right.
says they have to be by mail or by, what's that thing they call it there? It's attorney. Rochester doesn't have it, but it's by.
It's like a portal, online portal or something.
Yeah, online portal. They call it the NYSCEF.
Because I have heard of people, sending in the paperwork through the mail or whatnot, and clearly they're not getting dates. It's just being put in a pile. But I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even think you can legally serve a 14-day notice. So how does that play out? You know what I mean? Because if you mail something in right now and it's sitting somewhere to be scheduled, you would have had to serve a 14-day notice prior to that. So how would you prove that if you can't serve that notice right now? Do you know what I mean?
Well, if they consider that's the unknown, Beth, right now. Do they consider
Right.
that notice as part of the legal process? Technically it is, but realistically, is it? Because you can, and again, you're going to get half the attorneys saying one thing and half the other. Some are saying you can serve them, some say you can't. Right now, like Beth and I, we're not doing anything because we want to coordinate our 14-day notices when we know we can file and get court dates. That's kind of like what I'm thinking, Beth. So, and I think early September, I think the door is going to open up as to where we're going with all this. When we know that we can file, remember, they're suspended. You can file, but they're suspended till further notice. Hi, Frank.
Hey, how are you? I've been here, but I had camera off.
Who knows when that's going to be lifted? So, like Beth, I'm waiting also. What's Higgins saying? What's his advice right now?
His advice to us is don't do anything. He says if you are to do a 14-day notice, it's just a waste of money. You're just going to have to do it again. That's his opinion. So that we're just sitting tight. Obviously no late fees still, none of that. But I also am a big believer, as is Higgins, that it's just going to be pushed back again. Unfortunately, but.
Yeah, Beth is right. So on top of all this, there's a bunch of bills floating around Albany, which is very pro, Democrat, rent moratorium kind of mindset. There's bills floating around there also. There's bills floating around Congress in Washington right now. Beth is right. And we're going to touch upon another bill that did pass. I'll get to that in a second. But one point I want to make, as a manager, you got to think of strategy and tactics to help your business financially, because we've been affected financially, some little, some a lot. So we got to start thinking out of the box here. So one example is the 14-day pay or quit. Well, I'm serving that. I served that in August, all of them. And the purpose is not for a petition. It's not for an eviction. It's a message to tenants saying, and I know it's some attorneys will say that's a threat. You can't be doing it. But no, it's just, hey, the courts are starting to open up again. Here's your 14-day notice to pay or quit. And some take it seriously, some don't. But I actually had 2 people that did quit based upon that notice. So it was simply to send a message. For the most part, it didn't work out. I only had 2. Any other attorney advice? I mean, what are you hearing from your attorneys? What are you hearing in terms of courts and evictions? Anybody to share notes?
I heard Blizzy doesn't think it's starting until October.
By October 1.
Like a couple minutes ago, I just texted him.
But here's another thing with that is I think that once courts open, you're now into winter, Christmas, holidays. We all know that judges are going to be very lenient when it comes to that. So, even if, let's just say October comes and you can actually go to court, they push out the payment plans and stuff. I don't think you'll get a court date until December. They're not going to do any of that stuff in those months.
Right.
They're not.
And I'm going to take that further than you. Realistically, I'm not looking for warrants until January and February. Mm-hmm. Realistically, that's what's happening now. Maybe we can't. Did anybody forget about the the state law that passed 8192? The 6-month moratorium on warrants. All right, here's a bill that passed quietly, and I think some of you may know this or not. But right now, you can go to court. You could seek a money judgment, but you cannot seek possessory judgment, which means no warrants until 6 months after the state of emergency is lifted. That's September 7th. We're in the middle of 2021. Now, the caveat to that is that the tenant needs to show significantly proof that the COVID-19 has affected him financially to the point that he couldn't pay rent, and that's why he's in court. So it's up to the tenant to prove that he's entitled just to a judgment and no warrants until 6 months after that. Did y'all know that or not? No. Now, mind you, as we go forward, the other side is going to have legal aid right there. And they know all about this stuff, and they're going to push all this stuff, and they're going to make sure that they're going to help the tenants gather that proof and that information about COVID affected reasons. So we're in for a roller coaster ride. We're in for some rocky roads, in my opinion, and it's all new. I mean, forget the fact I got 37 years. We're all going down this together at the same pace, and we're just going to share notes along the way, and we wish you the best. Goodbye, over and out.
Well, Carl, the key thing is we have to pay and they don't. For the attorney, I'm saying.
Yeah, that's if it succeeds. Yeah. And with all the, stuff and all the, the chances of this getting knocked out is it's much greater than before, right? You might be paying twice. The attorney's not going to do this free a second time. So, and they're all coming at us with disclaimers and all that kind of stuff too, to let you know that, it's the outcome is what it is. Anything else on evictions? We'll move on.
Well, I know that, Carl, I know we've talked about it before, but the early release program that we do, we've gotten quite a few people out with that. So I don't know if there are some names on here I don't recognize, but basically we approach the tenant.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that was our next topic.
Was it?
Yeah, you take it away and I'll share what I've been doing. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically we approach a tenant who has not paid in months and months. And let's just say we know that they're never going to pay. Possession is key to us. So even if they owe $4,000 or $5,000, I would rather get them out now by offering them $1,000 to leave. Now, you and I, we would be like, I'm living for free at $1,000 a month. I'm not taking your measly $1,000. But a lot of our tenants, their mindset is today, and oh God, what could I spend that $1,000 on today? And I'll just go move. So they'll take that, and what we promise in return is we won't go after them for the back rent. They're gonna leave the house in broom clean condition, and we'll give them the $1,000 as soon as they're gone. And we kind of write up a contract, and they basically sign over all rights to the house. We've done that probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 times so far, and they've been problem tenants. So I don't care if it's $1,000 a month and they owe you $10,000, to have them sit there for free and just keep racking that up. You may as well cut your losses and go from there.
Exactly. It's about cutting your losses. It's strictly a financial business decision. It makes sense. It doesn't make sense personally, and it just, I finally jumped ship. And thank you, Pat, for finally convincing me to do this, but it's a hard pill to swallow. It makes sense.
But you really have to be careful in your wording, because, you know, the cash for keys floats around, but you really want to make it like, okay, I'm helping you because just your well-being, having a bill of $7,000 to pay back. I'm going to cut that, wash it, if you can just move on, and then we're all happy. So you just got to watch your wording, because you got to make sure you're not coercing them into it, stuff like that.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I used your model, Beth, but I really changed it, make it Melcar style.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did it. It went out to 35 folks, 2 bid at it. All right. I got 2 moving out this weekend to take on that deal. One of them behind 7 months, one of them behind 3 months. Now let me ask you, and I think Pat, who actually does the move out exchange of funds? Have you got to that part yet?
Yeah, we have Pat do it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I want to back up a little bit. So first we send out an early release kind of letter stating, if you leave, we're just going to wipe your debt clean. So it's not like we're giving them money to leave. Some people have taken us up on that, but more so if we really want them out, they're just wreaking havoc, they're, you know, upsetting other tenants, we will give them money to leave. So it's kind of there's 2 options there.
Right. So the whole idea of, you know, they owe me $5,000 and I'm going to give them $1,000 to vacate. It just, oh my God, that tears me up. But I have to get over that. And I have, because it just makes financial sense. But back to the actual exchange of funds, and I'm going to suggest when I do it this weekend, I got 2, because you got $1,000, $100 bills on you. I'm going to have a partner with me. Don't go there by yourself. Make sure you got 2 people with you. They know you got cash. Watch out. Just be on the safe side. How did that go? So were you satisfied with all the conditions met? Room swept clean, keys returned. Any problems with, oh geez, your smelly appliances are still here? I don't know if you ever ran into that yet. What did you do?
At the end of the day, you just want the place back. If they didn't clean it, there's stuff all over, at least they're gone. You know, but what we
I'm gonna push them a little bit. So if they did not comply with room swept clean, junk out, tell you what, you got 5 hours to get that done. I'll be back with the money. Get it done. I gotta push them. Come on. I waived their $5,000. I'm paying them $1,000 to clean the place. They agreed to do it. They signed the contract. Push them. Maybe into the next day. But that's what I plan on doing.
I think
Let me
it's
just
fair.
sort of interject a bit. You know, I've done the cash for keys, and it works not only with tenants but also in other situations. An example would be if you were going, to do a foreclosure or something along those lines. I mean, it works. And so, I mean, one of the questions I had for Beth and for Pat is, the forms that you're using in the write-up, is that something that you feel comfortable with sharing? No is an okay answer in this form.
Yeah, I don't see why not. It's fine. I do think what Carl said though, you do got to tweak it to your own doing.
These forms are proprietary, so take them as a model, and
Mhm.
then redo it
Yep.
your style with
Absolutely, 100% agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the base component of the wording is there, and changing the name and making sure that it takes on a little bit of the flavor of you, but more importantly, a little bit of the flavor of the situation too.
right.
So
That's exactly what I did with Best Form. I took that, I really tweaked it in Melcar style. So
And then another tip is when you actually meet the person at the property and you're about to exchange the money, have a little written thing saying, I, Joe Schmo, am giving up rights to 123 South Avenue in exchange for X amount. Have them sign it and put their ID next to the signature and take a picture of all that together. This way nobody can say, I didn't sign it, I wasn't there. So you have everything in one area this way. And then, what I would even do is send them a copy of the picture you took, and then also you have the picture on file, because like I said, with their ID there, the signatures matching the ID and on the paper, there's no way they can say it wasn't them.
got you. So
I think the point that Carl brought up earlier about having a second person there is really good. I also try to have that person, when I have a second person, sign as a witness. I mean, even though it's not necessarily something you consider as a legal document, but I guess it really is, but just have that person just sign underneath the other person's name as a witness to the fact that this took place.
Juan, did you have a question?
Yes, hi Beth. I just wanted to ask you, the people, once you exchange keys for cash, do you change the keys right away as soon as they leave the
Oh, yeah.
property?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Oh yeah, and alarm it. That's a good point too. Because now, people know that the house is vacant. I don't know. And in this day and age, you can get an alarm system for a couple $100 that you can move from property to property for $27 a month monitoring. It's very much worth it.
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
So I'll go out on a limb a bit and say any person that breaks into my property needs to make sure they can somehow destroy Simple Safe. I find it very useful, something that I move from one property to the next, and it allows me to sleep at night.
So give an example. My cover letter is about the lease termination agreement. If you vacate the unit by on or before September 1, we waive all back rent owed, including the current month rent. And I give them what that amount is. The security deposit is forfeited. Here's a big one. And I think this is the next two. I think why the tenants would maybe want to do this. The property owner will not seek a judgment against you. We won't do small claims. We just won't. Melcar will not give you a negative landlord reference as you attempt to move on and get your affairs in order. We understand hardships occur, and we're not going to impede your progress to secure new housing. The court action against you will be dropped, and the eventual eviction will not be on your record. That's pretty significant in that package of what you're going to do. And then finally, provide whatever your figure is. Mine's $1,000. I think Pat's $1,500. cash payment to assist moving expenses on the final walkthrough. All keys are returned. Yes, we meet at the property for the final walkthrough and the payment exchange. And yes, I do have a document to sign on that they received that, Beth. I like your idea for documentation. I'm going to imply that too. You know, and then the contract and so on. I had one lady, the 7-month behind lady, just mailed me the contract. No phone call. Here, boom. And let me recommend what they're doing and I'm doing. If you get the contract all signed out, all filled out and signed, you sign the contract too. A representative, one of us, will hand deliver a signed copy back to you. You want to get them in face. You want to talk to them one-on-one at their property to go over, you know, all the particulars, expectations, because what you're doing is mind-blowing. So, and then you know, communication is very important. That's my point in getting this concluded. So I got 2 this weekend. Any comments on that strategy? It works.
I mean, I guess I have a comment. I think that the starting point really depends on the situation that you're in. I have some tenants that I have signed documents from them saying that they owe X amount of dollars. My approach will be a little bit different, and I'm not sure where I end up at, but my approach is going to be, you pay me $1,000, and then I go through all the steps that you outlined, Carl, of dropping this and dropping that, and not having them have an eviction and not giving them a negative reference. So just give me $1,000, and that's what I'm going to do. I just need you to move out and have the property be broom cleaned. Now, it's a different starting point, but at least I'm starting one step better from my personal perspective than sort of saying, I'm going to give you $1,000, if you understand what I'm saying.
Has that worked?
Yeah, I know. Has it worked?
I'm in the process of doing it right now. So what I'll do is I'll do it and I'll come back and let everybody know what the outcome was.
All right.
I think, let me chime in there real quick. And Leon, I totally understand what you're saying. You don't want to lose as much. However, I do feel that the tenants that we're talking about that we're going to present this to, they know the system. They know that they cannot be evicted right now. So, I mean, I hope it works for you. I think it is a good starting point, but I do think that the tenants that we are using it for, they're very savvy. They know what we can and cannot do. So it may not work, but hey, it's worth a try.
There was what I was going to say, Beth. You know, think like a tenant for a minute. Okay, I mean, I don't have to give you anything. I still get to stay here. All right. So you know why? Like Beth, you know, give it a shot. Let us know what happens next month. But right now, you gotta get cash in their face. What I did, Beth, guys, is that I when I said 33 or 35 that I shipped out, these are cases where they're 3 or more months behind. I picked the worst ones. Now, Beth, you're doing that when they're 1 month behind or 2 months behind?
No, we're just doing it to the people who we know are just never going to pay.
Gotcha.
We've probably only done it to maybe 15 out of 600 plus.
Man,
Because our people are, I mean, we have this small nest of people who are just, they're not cooperating the whole 9. Those are the people who are getting it. Majority of our tenants, they are communicating. They're trying the rent relief programs. They're paying, they may not be paying the full rent, but they might be a month behind, but they're still making payments every month, every 2 weeks. So majority of our tenants so we're in August now, majority of our tenants have paid for July and some of August. You know, obviously some have paid full rent, but it's almost like everybody's like 2 to 4 weeks behind. But our thing is communication, so I really don't want to have a turnover just for a month behind.
Gotcha. And I do the same thing. So the ones that are communicating, the ones that are making an effort, yeah, I'm not doing those. These are the ones where no communication, no desire. It looks like they're just riding it out for the ride. And the ones that were pre-March 17. Remember, there's a batch there. I had about 10 cases pre-March 17th, that wrote it beyond, just, went into COVID-19 with 4 months, 3 months not paid. So those are the ones we're handling now. Back to the 14-day notice. I'm going to start officially doing that on September 8th. That's when I'm going to do 14-day notices. We'll see where it takes us. Again, it's a message that, things are getting a little bit more serious and put a little fire under the butt. That's the intent of the notice. If it rides into the effect of an actual petition, that's fine, but that's not really my goal at that point. The other reason why you want to do a 14-day notice is the City of Rochester Emergency Rent Assistance Program. Now, they're loaded with money. The CARES Act money, they're loaded up. Catholic Family Center's got the application process and intake and all of the eligibility and documents. They have a one-page thing on the city website. They're getting this out there. And one of the things to get funding is that you have to show a housing emergency, an urgent situation. They want to see the 14-day pay or quit. They go in there without any kind of urgent matter, they're denied. So when I mailed this, in fact, the day this came out, this went to every person that owed rent, back rent. And my next one, I'm going to send out another one. Along with this, I'm going to send out a 14-day pay or quit. Now they're walking in the CFC with the urgent issue. The only purpose of that notice is to get them financial help from a third party. Any questions on that?
Carl, have you seen any money from that yet?
No, it's relatively new. They're just out the gate with it right now.
Even from the CARES Act or obviously the agencies, yes, we're seeing money from, but the New York State rent relief, Catholic Family, any of that, right?
Well, the Catholic, the YMCA
Right.
was the most effective program in the last 3 months. And I've seen quite a bit of money. It's now gone, but this was a program where it was a one-page application. It was so streamlined, it blew me away. They mailed in a one-page thing, mailed in. I don't know what happens after that with the tenant and them, but you get a $900 check in the mail. No W-9, no phone call. I don't know if you went through that, Beth, or not, but I had over 15 like that.
Yeah, we did get that, but I was talking more about the New York rent relief. Has any of that money come in yet? The Catholic Family, none of that, right?
None.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, too new. The New York rent relief thing, I think a lot of the tenants are just getting frustrated with the red tape and the strings.
Well, a lot of my tenants were told, okay, you'll hear from us in 2 to 4 weeks. It's now been over 4 weeks. So they're getting pretty frustrated because they want an answer on if they're going to get help or not. And I don't even think they have someone they can check in with.
Gotcha. Let's talk about September, October. I think up until right now, we have been surviving in an adequate fashion because of the extra $600 unemployment. That's gone. And a lot of the tenants relied on it. In fact, many of my tenants made their rent payments and paid in advance in some cases because of that windfall. I call that the windfall. So that's gone. So, we're going to see what happens with September, right? Does anybody have an update or the status on any new unemployment benefits rolling out?
Hey Carl, I saw an article a couple days ago that said that the New York State Department was going to start hitting the 300 this week or next week, and they were not opting into that extra $100 on the state side. So it's half of what it was, but it's better than what they're getting now.
Cool. Thanks, man. Got that. All right. So, you know, at least there's some money out there. Quite a bit of money, and there's many third-party agencies that help with this. Beth, I mailed you that copy. That changes every week, though. That list of agencies. All right. Any questions on that? Then we'll move on. By the way, any moment right now, as we speak, I'm about to be a grandfather for the first time ever.
Congratulations.
Yeah, popping out the kid.
Congrats.
A boy or girl or surprise?
Girl.
Aww.
That's nice.
Congrats, Tom. Congratulations.
How's it feel to be a grandpa?
No, Grumpa.
Grandpa Paul.
Grumpa.
It's the best feeling in the world. I did it twice this year for the first time. I had 2 grandkids this year.
All right. Only okay.
No, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
No, it's another expense column in my.
Oh, yeah, it is an expense. Carter's Outlet sent me $1,000 credit card the day my second grandchild was born, and I just said that's a bad thing.
That's funny. Yeah, that's just another, oh, well, whatever it is. You can't put money on life. But anyways, we'll see what happens. All right, ready to move on? By the way, if anybody want to look up that bill about that 6-month no eviction, it's S8192. S8192.
I'll search it real quick.
Yeah.
S8192.
Yep. And if you Google NYS 8192, it'll pop up. If you want to read the actual text of that bill. All right.
S8192B.
No, 8192. Yeah, there's a B and there's an A, but just 8192. And at the very, the date of that is April 13th. That'll help you line that up.
You sure that's the right number?
Yeah.
8192 didn't pass.
Relates requiring licensed massage therapist to display his or her license when practicing?
You're in the wrong year. 8192 passed.
No, 8192 didn't pass. 8192B passed. 8192 shows that it's in committee.
No. Both of them passed. Look it up.
No, 8192B is the revised version of 8192. I'm looking right at it. It says introduced in committee dead.
What?
Yeah, B is to amend real property actions.
Yeah, what date was that?
8192S is 2019-2020 legislative session.
This just says current status signed by governor.
Yeah, B says signed by governor. A said, or nothing says nothing. It's not here.
Okay, well, Jamie Kane is what gave us that one, but I'll look it up.
It's the Holyman bill. This is the one that passed, was B.
Okay. Let's go on to the, I'll look that up, guys. Thank you. All right, so some of you might.
Here's another one.
Frank, what are you doing?
S8192 is in Senate. That says April though.
All right. Some of you, including myself, I think Beth's operation, we're starting to get phone calls. We're starting to get an uptick on inspections. City of Rochester has now open up their inspection protocol and their C of O and complaints and notice and orders, and we're back into that, but it's modified quite a bit. All right, so the one thing I want to cover is any C of O cases that expired after March 1, they are doing what they call a soft interior inspection, which means the tenant and the manager can sign off on it without the inspector doing it. These are, by the way, this brand new policy. It was for every case before, but now it's for any cases after March 1st. C of O cases expired after March 1st. Ones expired before March 1 is still a full inspector inspection. And there's a form, there's an affidavit form, it's online. Essentially, it's just to attest that all the smoke detectors are working, carbon monoxide is working. Now, I'll give you the 4 items that you and the tenant need to agree on. There's no peeling, flaking, or loose paint anywhere. There's no water leaks from roof or plumbing fixtures. Here's a big one. There's no presence of pests, mice and roaches, and no other hazards exist. That's really all they're looking for, and it's really the initial intent of an inspection anyways. It was all for health and safety. So if the tenant's all good with that, you're all good with that, you sign it, both people sign it. The tenant gives their name and phone number, and you fax that in. Now, these affidavits, again, for cases, C of O's expired after March 1st, and they have not had any past serious lead paint issues. So they do check the county records. They do check any serious city lead hazard records. If they identify that, then they go into a full interior inspection. Anybody received these forms yet?
We actually did one yesterday.
How'd it go?
It went fine. He waived the interior, but then I didn't agree with what he was saying. He was telling my guy that met him out there that because he found an exterior violation, it actually, the waiver is not valid anymore, which I don't think is correct. Am I wrong?
I have no clue. So like I said, this is a moving target, Beth. That could be correct. It could not be correct. Go right to Kurt Martin and get it right from him.
It was something very minor. He let me slide on it anyway, but that's not what I was told in the beginning, so I'm a little confused on that. And you know how certain inspectors interpret things certain ways? So have you ever done a C of O inspection and passed the first time? It's so rare. So,
I have a couple, extremely rare, but I have a couple. Yeah.
So
it doesn't happen too often.
Yeah. So I was a little confused on that, but I think it's a fantastic tool. If you have a C of O that's up, get it in and do it.
Yeah. And the inspectors are the ones that, well, I'm not sure. My inspector is the one that nailed it out to me, but I'm not sure. If the clerk
we got it with the, it's coming with the application now.
Ah, really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, can you contact Kurt Martin tomorrow?
Yeah, I can. And then also with the C of Os for I think 3 or 4 families and up, they're only going in 40% of the units.
Correct.
But it's random. They don't tell you which ones.
Right. Right. Oh, another caveat to the supplemental affidavit interior inspection form. Your C of O is only good for 3 years instead of 6.
It's because the lead test is only good for 3 years.
Yeah. The city is now back doing lead tests. Before you had to get a third party or you had a nice inspector that kind of looked the other way. But They're back doing lead tests. However, the violation inspection needs to be separate from the lead test time. So you got two different times the inspector is going to be there. One to sign off on violations, and then later to do the lead test. Prior, many cases, they did both at the same time. During COVID, that's not going to be the case. Joe, you had a question? You're on.
Yes, I was on, but I had no question. But you're right. We had 3 of those inspections in the last week and a half or so. They all went very smooth. There was not a problem with any of them, so it was great. But you're right. There's 3 years. I was wondering, is that 3 years permanent now, or is it just during the COVID-19 that this issue is?
Great question. My understanding is just the ones that had the affidavit is 3 years. When you have a full inspection with the inspector, you're still 6.
Okay.
Yeah, what, I mean, as far as like you were saying, they don't want to do the lead test. It was very difficult. Even, when I was, before COVID hit, they were fighting doing the lead test right off the bat. Even on a freshly rehab house, which I'd guarantee I'd been through, and there was nothing that they could cite paint-wise. I think they're going to go 6, but what it is the lead test is good for 3 years. If they ever come in for a complaint between years 3 and 6, they're going to require a lead test at that point. So if they ever, once you pass a C of O on a regular C of O, year 4, something happens where you have to go in the house, they're going to make you get a lead test once the inspector has to go back in, if it's after the 3 years.
So back to the things changing by the day. So let me give you an example, Beth, of a interpretation by an inspector that was incorrect. We had one guy, it was funny. He was there to do a complaint inspection, and under the new guidelines here. I won't give the name. Anyways, he pulls up. How you doing? Now, I've dealt with him many times, and goes to the door, goes, everybody out. Everybody out of the Chris, what are you doing? We're allowed one manager and one adult. That's the rule. One on each side. Inside, wear masks. Okay. But he goes, nope, I've been told, I've been yelled at. That's not the way. It's nobody can be inside to do an inspection. So that's an example of misunderstanding. And we get through all that stuff. We get through it. So one thing I'm finding out, and it might be coming from top down, but because, the city code enforcement department is really backed up. I mean, they're jammed. They're focusing on health and safety. That came right from Kirkmeyer. So that's why they're going smooth, Joe, because they're focused on serious health and safety. They're not going to pick your place apart like in the old days. That's one way to get through this backlog. And so I'm seeing that too. How about you guys, Beth, your staff? How are CROs going for your inspections?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's not like it was a year ago where you would go and you think the house is perfect. I mean, Frank can attest to this. And we think we're going to pass, and they find the 2 stupidest little things ever. Sometimes I just feel like if they pass it on the first time, they're scrutinized. That's my feeling on that. But no, it's definitely been better.
Frank, you've done a lot. Have you had any on the first inspection passed? You got your C of O?
Yes.
Rare,
yeah,
but
it's fairly rare. It's more common with some inspectors than others. I think I had a run with one inspector, like 5 straight passed on the first. But most of those were rehabs, or we did a lot of work, so everything was right. But if they want to find something, they're going to find something. And I can't stand it when they tell you how nice the house is and they cite you for some ridiculous thing. When did you guys start citing for that? You've never done that before.
Right. And you find that from the newbies, particularly the seasoned guys. They know the drill.
Well, the worst is when they're training a new guy and they go through.
Yeah. they throw the book at
They
you.
cite every little thing.
Well, any questions on the new inspection stuff going on? Again, this is fresh out of the gate. Part of the protocol, C of O inspection procedure addendum, using virtual inspections. Let's talk about that. So the city has a method by which you can actually videotape re-inspections only for violations, not initials, not C of Os, but re-inspections. We can videotape. You're showing the house, you got the names, you identify the unit. You have to have the permission of the inspector to do this, and then they give you a list of requirements to get this done. You submit it, and they deny or allow. Now, I haven't done one yet. I'm going to be doing one. How about the Gallaghers? Have you done one yet?
We have not. I'm curious to see how yours goes, though.
Well, let me explain why I got to do this. And this came from high up down. So we had a 4-family unit whereby, let's just say the tenants got radicalized by, and they all pay on time. They got radicalized by the recent events around town. Let's just put it that way. So one of the tenants got all the tenants together and, let's make complaints. Well, they didn't go the normal route. They went to the mayor. and shit rolls downhill, right? So they went to the mayor. They're screaming at the top. They didn't even go through the normal channels, which pissed them off badly. And we're talking about some really stupid stuff. But by the way, and I think I told Frank this was a property we just went through in the fall. $85,000 exterior makeover. It was a lead grant. New windows, new porches, new doors, new siding. I mean, mint. And they're calling about little stuff on the inside. Let me tell you about how stupid it was. And of course, they're on medicines, and I don't know if they got the correct one that day. But she in her mind, the job wasn't done because the drop ceiling, the drop ceiling with the metal grids, she wanted all the grids painted black. This is no joke. And she's complaining to the inspectors this. They got so pissed off, they told them off. Listen, lady, we're not coming here again. Stop calling us. We're done. But they got an open notice and order. So they're telling me, Carl, we're not going there anymore. You've got to do a virtual to get this closed. Only me. So I'll let you know how that goes. How that turns out. I don't know. It's stupid. The life of tenants. Anybody else got some stories?
I will say that I think people have to be, I know people think that their application process can be pretty tough or pretty stringent, but I think over the next 6 months or so, it's got to be even more so. We have over 600 units and we only have 2 openings right now. We have a waiting list of people approved. There is not places out there for people to rent. And I think a lot of it is there's not turnover because there's no eviction, stuff like that. But so when somebody comes to you with cash in hand, first of all, it's always a red flag. But second of all, since you can't look up their eviction history and stuff, like we talked about in the beginning, there is going to just be mobs of people looking for housing. And you can especially if you're new to this, people can talk their way and just see that you're a sucker and you're going to give someone a break. And I just think you got to be very careful.
Let me add on to that. Cash rich, income poor. So most of the people coming at you are these folks that did not pay In fact, I had one lady just apply. When was the last month you paid any rent? She goes, December. And I go, you know, why on earth do we want to move? The place is falling apart. I says, ma'am, you have been living free for 6 months. Take the money, fix the place up. Why you got to move? You got a free ride and you're bitching? Oh yeah, I'm off on her. Then I gave her Pat Gallagher's phone number. Anyways, so.
And then I denied her, so that's okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna be getting a lot of that, you know. Yeah, but you gotta look. Listen, if you just throw it out, you're gonna have empties for a long time. So let's be smart about it. You need to really dig into the circumstances of what's going on. Was it legit? Did they not have the income to pay? You know, really dig in on that. You're gonna get folks, and this is where I ain't getting in trouble. I don't care, because a contract between two people is a contract. I don't care if there's any law that says you can't, as long as it's legal. So if a tenant comes to you because they're loaded up with $600 times 4 times 5, and they got 6,000 sitting there, I want to pay 4 or 5 months in advance, and they offered it. We agree. We're taking it. They offered. We didn't require it. It's a little bit different, I think, Beth. I know the rule says, the law says you can't do that.
I agree with you, but that's a huge red flag in my book.
I know. I think the intent of the legislation was you can't demand that to qualify. See, there's a difference, right? Whereas they offered it, I don't think that was the intent of the law. Throw me in jail.
I do agree with you. If somebody offers it, it is what it is. But I also find that as a red flag if somebody says, oh, I want to rent your place and I can pay 6 months in advance.
Oh, yeah. Don't just take it and run. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. Let's see what's going on. You know? And a lot of times these are, you're going to be getting a lot of doubling up, a lot of, you know, cousins living with cousins, and my sister's living with my brother, and my mother's living with, you know, a lot of displaced families doubling up in their houses, and so they're coming out of a well, not homeless, but they don't have their own place, and so they're trying to get their own place, and so you know, they're loaded up with money ready to go. We have to look beyond that. What happened to the situation before that? I always go to the property before that. As long as it's within 6 months, I go to the property before that. I see the phone number to the landlord there. I see the broken windows. I talk to the neighbor. Do all you can to find out the situation, because the reason why they're in mommy's house is they got evicted from, or they didn't pay the rent from the previous place. Got to find out why. All right, winding down here, guys. Open floor. What topics do you have? What's bothering you? What's going on? What do you want to talk about? FYI, the city-led grant is open for applications. They just got funded recently. Pat, are you doing any of those?
We are, but getting the tenants to give us their information is like pulling freaking teeth. How did you get 4 people to do that in that house you were just talking about?
Oh, it was a hustle. Now, by the way, it was the same 4 people. It was the same 4.
The sticking point, usually they don't want to pay for the.
Fortunately.
To go to Westfall Road and get the Social Security numbers for all their kids.
No,
well, I have this girl that's complaining about her windows in the summer, and I'm like, fill out the paperwork. What do you think it's going to be like in November, you know? But.
Oh my God. Well, fortunately, I got lucky, Beth, because 3 of them were just single adults, right? The 4th one was had a child. So yeah. It was kind of easy. And then, you know, once he realized he get new windows, new doors, and everything's great, the insides were all painted and everything. Yeah, I want this. Where do I sign?
I'm actually doing one. I just submitted it a couple weeks ago for a vacant property. And that's super easy because you don't have to get any tenant information. Like, I was surprised how easy it was, and they approved it and they're moving ahead with it. So, yeah.
As long as you can wait on having that property vacant. Do you actually fill it and then they do the job, Beth?
No, we're gonna wait for the whole, it's been vacant for a while. We took it over vacant. So we had to do like electrical service, stuff like that, but the owner wants to wait and he's fine with it.
Yeah, the only thing with the grants is you can't sell or refinance for 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, somebody found out that the hard way. And I read the contract word for word. Nowhere in the contract did it say that.
Well, they told me up front you can't sell. You
No.
technically you can refinance, but the city has subordination paperwork you fill out.
Right. They should say that up front. Right. It wasn't in the contract at all, and the thing that you signed, but
they told me up front on mine when I did it. They told me up front you can't sell.
Well, they should have that in writing somewhere. All right. So, what else we have here? I'm with Beth. The 106 units, no empties. But what's worse than an empty one is an occupied one not paying. So we have a lot of those. So the first week in September is going to be a very busy week in a number of different ways. The courts are just going to find their way through all this kind of stuff. We're going to, as managers, we're going to figure out 14 days and timing of things.
So you're saying you can apply in September?
Apply or file.
See, Plizzy's thing to me tonight was it's only for back cases in September. You can't apply. They don't start until October.
Correct. So in September, they're going to redo all the 350 cases, and it's really going to take up, because of the timing of that, it's going to take up September and part of October. We're not going to get dates well into October, November, probably more November than anything. If you're filing, remember, you could still file, and again, they say by mail or whatever. And I gotta read you something. Ready for this? And I don't recommend doing this by yourself. Where did that order go? I don't get this. Initiating documents by represented petitioners must be filed through the New York State SEF, which is some kind of online portal thing. Rochester doesn't have that yet, or mail. So mail. And in parentheses, underrepresented parties may file papers in person. What's that about? So I just might file in person. And by the way, when I was down there last month, I don't know if this was a fluke. I was in the courthouse when they first opened up the first week a month ago, and computers are still open. I'm still looking at computers. I'm still looking. I just don't tell people I do. You don't know I do. So, but two people were there and physically filed small claim cases. What? I physically was there to file my affidavits of noncompliance from a pay stay from back in March. She goes, "You could file. I could take them. See that pile over there? That's where they're going." Someday we might get to it upon direction. All right, let's wind this down. We're at 8:25 and I have to go see a kid. Leon, you there? Where'd you back out? 16, we have 16 people.
I'm always here.
All right. Well, let's wind this down and the paid in full is. All right, Greg, you're funny. What's the next FFREIA thing going on? The Aries group?
Yeah, well, the next meeting will be the Aries group at the first Thursday. So we'll have that.
September 3rd. Is that the morning or nighttime slot?
It's the morning. Mr. Joe Lababera and Mr. Scott Spear will be basically emceeing that meeting. So we'll have that. And we talked about the general meeting already, so I don't no big items at this point. We'll see if anything takes place from the standpoint of some of the stuff we talked about today. It's sort of interesting to try to figure out exactly how we're gonna navigate ourselves through this current situation, which is challenging at best. So new ground, but I really want to thank you for taking us through the session that you just did. Not a lot of people, typically we have a lot more questions, but excellent job, well done.
Anybody else have any last minute comments and we'll sign off? Great job, Beth. Always great to see you. Beth is our co-host, Gallagher Property Management.
Joe likes to call it something else though, right, Joe?
What the?
Yes, I call it BPM now. Beth's Property Management Company. That's out, Beth's in.
Yeah.
BPM.
Pat does the important stuff. I just do the day-to-day. It's totally fine.
No, he does.
That's funny.
All right. Have a good weekend, everyone.
All right, we're out of here.
Right, have a good one.
Good night, all.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for being here.
Yep.
Thank you.